I've got to wonder if electric vehicles are being marketed the wrong way. It's not just about the environment. Don't get me wrong, as someone that breathes air, I appreciate the clean kind. But what about the punchy performance? No oil changes, less maintenance, no standing at gas pumps in extreme hot and cold climates, and plenty of them travel over 200 miles on a charge these days. The Kia Niro EV is one of them. The EPA figures it'll go 239 with a fully topped-off battery. If you want the neighbors to know that you're a trendsetter, you'll have to tell them yourself. It doesn't look much different than the other Niros, and that might be a good thing.
Remember, Niro is available with 3 different powertrains: a regular hybrid, sort of like a Prius that does not get a charge port, a plug-in hybrid version with an all-electric range of 26 miles according to the EPA before the gasoline engine kicks on, taking you as far as you want to go, and this all-electric EV model, only batteries, no gas engine. But it all depends on where you live.
Unlike the other two, the pure EV model is only sold in the 14 states that have largely adapted California's CARB standards. As they scroll by to this lovely elevator music, keep in mind that if you don't live in one of them, you can always travel to buy one. There's no law against that. But service could be problematic if that's needed. Okay, let's ditch that music. But back to servicing, EVs don't have complex engines and transmissions, plus brake components tend to last far longer because much of the stopping comes from the resistance of the motor generator, sending electricity back to the battery. A spotter's guide, the EV gets blue trim that might attract the attention of BMW designers and lawyers. The lower intake looks different, and the tiger nose grille, that's not actually a grille, is body-colored. Inside, it looks a little bit different, especially this section that's more open. It's easier to see the ambient lighting at night. Other Niros get a standard-looking shift lever, and the gauge cluster treatment is different. This is a 2019 EX Premium model. 2020s will get subtle changes like a larger touchscreen. First things first, checking real-world range.
We like luxury cars because they're quiet, right? Well, electric cars are very, very quiet.
Niro is no different. EVs are more efficient in city driving like this. Half of my miles were on the highway. Extreme hot and cold temperatures affect range too. The average was around 50 degrees.
Can I just say that when you're driving just to drive, just to burn off range, it gets a little boring. I really have no place to go.
I purposely mixed things up as best I could, pushing it hard in some cases, easing off in others. I even got lucky, hitting an hour or two of heavy rain, which reduces range. In the end, I easily could have hit the EPA's 239-mile figure, but my wife has chores for me to do. Here's what makes Niro EV go. Buried under all of this is a 201 horsepower motor with 291 pound-feet of torque. I always like to demonstrate what a vehicle sounds like. Here. That's all your ears are going to get. There is no transmission to maintain, and Niro is strictly front drive, no option of all-wheel drive. And there are drive modes, though I didn't notice a huge difference between them.
It's really easy to forget to turn an electric car off and even leave it in drive because they're so quiet. This one has a safety feature. It goes into park automatically when you open the door. Ask me how I discovered that.
What's up with these? This pedal reduces the amount of regeneration drag while coasting. This one increases it. It always defaults to minimum on restart. Owners will want level 2 charging at home, the 240 kind, what a dryer uses. A full charge takes 9.5 hours. That's basically overnight. At 50 kilowatt-hour commercial fast charge stations, an 80% charge takes an hour and 15 minutes. 120 voltage would take 2.5 days. Not recommended. Oh, and the 64 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion polymer battery is mounted in the floor, making up half a ton of Niro EV's 3,850-pound weight. That's over 25%.
Niro EV is pretty darn quick. 0 to 60 happens in about 6.5 seconds. And the thing about electric cars is they feel faster off the line than they are because of the instant torque. It's very soul satisfying. If you haven't driven an electric car, you really need to experience it.
When you look at it as a regular car, the kind families will use to do everyday stuff, it's remarkable how unremarkable this EV is. In a good way, it looks like a normal wagony crossover, it has plenty of room, and since it goes some 240 miles, there's no worries.
I'm driving and driving and driving. I still have half the range to burn off. No range anxiety in this car at all.
And if you're on a trip, the Navi system not only shows how far the car can travel graphically, it displays charge stations, so planning the next power draw is less stressful.
Gotta say, the visibility in the Niro EV is pretty darn good. Nice big greenhouse, and that would apply to any Niro. This is a comfortable car, and since it's an EV, it's quiet, even on the highway. All you really hear is wind noise rushing over the car, and it's pretty subtle.
There's a lot of standard active electronic safety tech on Niro EV, blind spot warning, automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, and a very good lane keep assist that tracks smoothly on the highway.
When it comes to pedal feel, the transition from regenerative braking to the actual physical disc brakes is pretty good. However, if you do a panic stop, they're pretty grabby, and there goes my equipment.
The gauge cluster offers up what the powertrain is doing, so drivers know how much energy they're using or recapturing.
In its most aggressive regeneration mode, Niro EV slows modestly, but does not come to a complete stop. You actually have to use a brake pedal, so one pedal driving in this car, not really a thing.
As far as the driving experience goes, Niro EV motors around much the way it looks. Nothing flashy, it just goes about its business.
Let's talk about handling. Typically, electric cars have their heavy batteries mounted in the floor, which lowers the center of gravity, and that's a good thing. Now, generally, when I get to this part of the review, I'm talking about how much fun this thing is to drive. And Niro is good, but because the suspension is set for comfort, there is some understeer or front end plow when you really chuck it hard into a corner, so enthusiasts, take note on that.
Now, the fully electric Mini is fresh in my mind, and it's a hoot to bomb around in. It's a whole different car, though, with literally half the range. The Niro nails the practical crowd it's aimed at. The normalcy just keeps on coming inside. If you're in the camp that thinks one giant screen is the way to go in a car, this EV is not for you. There's something to be said about controls that are right at hand without paging through menus. The car's climate system is equipped with an optional heat pump. At $1,080, it's more efficient, and it's paired with a battery heater. Minnesotans, you should consider it. Some plastics have a budget look, others look and feel good. The seats with moderate bolstering will handle bigger drivers. They're heated and vented, and though they're leather, the stiffness feels like synthetic leather. The driver's is powered, the passenger's is not. As far as storage cubbies are concerned, there are a whole bunch of normal ones all throughout the cabin, and they're generous in size. The center console is flexible. If you don't eat or drink in your car, this space can give you extra room for, I don't know, hats, gloves, which reminds me, the steering wheel is heated. The touchscreen interface is the same Hyundai Kia layout that's easy to figure out. It's not particularly quick, there's some lag happening here. Maybe the 2020 model's 10.25-inch unit will get better response than this 8-inch screen. There's wireless charging in Niro. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are standard kit, but phones need to be plugged in to use it. And the upgraded Harman Kardon sound system is quite good for a mainstream vehicle.
Gotta say, people have written in saying Evil Twin hasn't been so evil lately. Maybe, but they don't know what I did to your Miata last night. You probably don't either. Let's talk about the back seat. The Niro EV has a big battery, and it goes in the floor. That raises it a couple inches, leading to two things: less foot room and less thigh support because your knees are higher. My other big gripe? No power port to charge my phone. Door slots are shaped to hold water bottles. Both seat backs get pockets. Yay! And at 5'9", I find headroom is generous. The seats back here are not heated, but they're wide enough so that 3 adults should tolerate short trips together. My tip, avoid bulky footwear, and your experience in the Niro EV backseat will be more pleasant. This is not available with a powered tailgate, kicked open or otherwise. Hey, I'm at Costco. Am I doing the TP trunk test? Well, kind of, sort of. Leaving the store with the 6 bundles that would fit back here looks bad these days. So here's my shopping. That includes paper products that my wife will be happy to see, despite what you might think we're dangerously low on this stuff. So yeah, the Niro has a useful cargo hold. There's space under the floor for the charge cord that comes with the car, and there's room for the security shade to be stashed. That's nice. No physical spare tire though, only a repair kit. It's easy enough to reach in and drop the seats down. No pass-through or 40-20-40 split seats on the Niro. And the load floor isn't completely flat, but it'll do. Stuff like this new leaf blower and trimmer load up without a hitch. In the EV spirit, I'm finally switching to battery-powered tools. These are supposed to be quite good. My thought is, if I can't get a haircut soon, I'll use the weed whacker. Yeah, I'll use safety glasses.
Pricing can be tricky with EVs because there's a $7,500 federal tax credit available with the Niro EV and any incentives your state might offer. I'm going to let you do the math. Retail pricing starts at $36,900 with destination for the base EX model. Getting leather, heated seats, and a sunroof means moving up to the EX Premium model, a $5,500 jump. And there's the heat pump option for a total of just over $47,000 for this fully loaded model, or just under 40 grand with the federal tax credit. I did a little math for you. At 172 inches long, it's 15 inches shorter than Tesla Model Y, 8 inches longer than a Chevy Bolt EV, so it's kind of a tweener in size. Look at the Nissan Leaf and Niro's stablemates, Soul EV and Hyundai Kona EV. As a brand, Kia has done an exceptionally good job when it comes to design. It's widely considered to have some of the best-looking mainstream vehicles on the road today. Niro isn't looking to advance the style of useful family transportation. It looks good in an inoffensive way. Let's call it French vanilla. It's pitched as an SUV crossover by Kia. I see it as a taller station wagon, but whatever. This is a vehicle that works, whichever powertrain it's bought with. If buyers only understood that pure EVs come with serious benefits, not just a few perceived limitations, I'm convinced that they would be much more popular. Less expensive to fuel and maintain, the powerful Niro EV is the best of the three siblings. Hope that clears the air. To those who think the internal combustion engine is dead, far from it. Gas-powered cars will be with us for decades. Until charging stations are ubiquitous on city streets or in parking lots, EVs are for people that own homes, have condos or apartments with chargers, or can charge at work. They're not for everyone, yet.
I will make a plug, as it were, for plug-in hybrids. The Niro version goes about 26 miles on pure electric power before it defaults to the gas engine. Now, this is great because 26 miles is about what most people drive in a day. And then if you want to go on to a road trip, you just simply switch fuel sources. Very convenient, actually.
Also, since electric range isn't critical, installing expensive level 2 charging isn't necessary. I charge on 110 current. As I've said before, my wife and I both drive plug-in hybrids, she a Chevy Volt and me a Cadillac ELR. Typically, I buy maybe 1 tank of gas a year. She drives more, buying a couple, maybe 3. The disadvantage is there's an engine to maintain, though oil changes are, every 2 years or so for us.
In closing, as the rain squall starts coming in here, let me just say, yes, I understand gasoline prices are at historic lows. I get it. But that is not a reason to dismiss electric vehicles. I evangelize because they're fun to drive. If you've never driven one, get out there. You'll see what I mean. There's also less maintenance. And, we do need to start paying attention to the environment. This whole save the earth stuff, forget that. Save us. The planet will always be around. And yes, you can make a difference. That old saying, no one raindrop thinks it's responsible for the flood, that kind of applies here. All right, sermon over. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.